Hello and welcome to episode 113 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is October 10th, and together with Robert and Goran, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So today we cover actually two very interesting topics. First of all, we are looking again at what Microsoft is doing internally. In the past, we already had some really cool sessions where Microsoft IT, Microsoft Digital talked about what they are doing as a customer of SAP. And I thought they were always really, really great. The other topic that we want to talk about today is DevOps. So I don't know how many times I've heard the topic coming up in customer discussions now, especially in the context of SAP. So what can you do with DevOps in the SAP environment? There are a lot of approaches when it comes to GitHub integration, for example, especially in the ABAP context, when we talk about GCTS or ABAP Git. So there are a lot of topics there. And actually, we also had a session around this in the past. Today, we want to learn a little about using Azure DevOps for SAP change management. And talking with Jagan and Ram upfront, I thought this was something really, really exciting, especially since, again, I had a few customer discussions in the past that really ask for this topic. So I'm really, really happy to have both of them in our session today. But before we hand over to them, as always, we'll take a look at some of the news from this week. And I actually want to start with a blog post from Martin Pankratz, or actually this is an older blog post, but that's actually something that I really, really like about this one, because this is basically the center of gravity for the SAP Business Technology Platform Private Link service. So he's constantly updating this blog post with latest news, with new announcements. And just yesterday, there was an announcement of additional services that are now supported by SAP Private Link. So if you want to integrate Azure Key Vault or Azure Cosmos DB, app services, Azure Functions, and also the Azure Application Gateway, there's some new announcement, there's some new supports for these services. So it's always good to like and register and follow Martin here to get the latest updates on, not only Private Link, but in this case, the Private Link service here. The next blog post that I wanted to talk about is unfortunately no longer available, but Bartosz had announced this blog post, and there was a little back and forth then also on Twitter on why the blog post was removed or why it was taken down. In the end, Bartosz is currently looking to republish this blog post on a different site in the SAP Tech community. It is all about Azure DataFactory and the new Change Data Capture connector that was released a few months ago. Remember, we had Ulrich Christ also joining us some time ago when he was talking about this new connector. And in this blog post, Bartosz basically outlines how to use Azure DataFactory and connect to the ODP framework to retrieve data from an SAP system. Now, there are some caveats, obviously, there. There are some things that Microsoft is connecting to the ODP connector, which a lot of other partners are also doing. But I think that was one of the reasons why it was taken down. But again, it will resurface, or what did Bartosz say? We're looking for a new home for this blog post, and I'm sure once we have it published again, then we can also talk about this again. Looking at two other blog posts that were released just this week, both in the area of supply chain management. So Dominic was very active on the SAP side to integrate Microsoft technologies with IBP and the whole supply chain flow. And one of the topic is focusing on Azure machine learning. So the idea is really to have the information. You have these planning views that are part of IBP, and then take this information and run or use machine learning on top of that to get better insights and better predictions, obviously, in this scenario. It's a nice integration. It's fairly straightforward, where you just use the Cloud Integration Suite to call the relevant APIs on the Azure machine learning side, and then to do the actual calculation here in the planning sheet. So I think if you're using supply chain management, if you're using IBP, this is definitely something also worth checking out. The other blog post from Dominic is around a Teams integration, or actually an integration using adaptive cards. And the idea is you have a flow where you have the planner and the supplier working together basically on from two sides on an Ariba system. And now when something changes, when there is an update from the supplier, when there's an update from the buyer, then this information is obviously then available in the Ariba system, but now the persons, the people need to be notified. And one easy way that Dominic explains here is how you can actually do this notification via adaptive cards that can be sent either to a Teams channel, or that could be sent to your Outlook client. And then the buyer or the supplier can actually take some action. So they first of all get the notification, but then potentially there could also be some insights. Oh, the shipment will arrive 2 days later, and then the buyer says, okay, well then I need to reschedule. So this makes the whole thing much more collaborative, much more active. So I thought that was also a really nice blog post, and Dominic outlines how this can be done. So how he's using Logic Apps to post these adaptive cards, in this case to Teams here, to really have this interactive flow. Yeah, here, for example, you see one example of a forecast request that is then available in your Teams channel. So I thought these were some really nice blog posts that show the integration of SAP and Microsoft technologies. And obviously, adaptive card is something that we'll hear more and more. And actually, one place where you can hear more and more about this is the upcoming Ignite. So we talked about this in the past as well. Now it's pretty close. So next week we'll have Microsoft Ignite. It is again a hybrid event. There's an on-site event in Seattle, but I think the majority of viewers or participants will be online. So all the sessions are streamed online. It will be kicked off again by a keynote from Satya, and everyone watching our podcast here today, I can highly recommend to tune in to the keynote. It's always fascinating to hear Satya talk, and yeah, maybe there are some cool surprises there. But Goran, you also looked at the session catalog at Ignite and filtered for SAP.
Exactly. So one of the, of course, we're always looking and pointing to the SAP. There are some really interesting topic. Here is on the different languages as well. Interesting, not just English. So even on French.
I don't speak French.
yeah. Something about what I can understand is cybersecurity and resilience. Okay, for English, not from SAP guys. Okay, Kindrel. Yes, and then we have from Sachin Gorpade. He was blogging from. He's from SAP Partner Management, integrating SAP. Another one again from the either partner or a customer securing S/4HANA migrations. And then there is also in German about the Sentinel and SAP. And there are some other session about not directly about the SAP, but generally about the Power Automate. However, they always emphasize we can integrate with SAP in this way, on that way. So definitely, and something about the shared storage as well. Mention it. I would also recommend if you would go to the next one. Mark Krustinovic. So he is really the technical fellow of the chief technology officer at Microsoft. I mean, always has a great sessions and always a good overview. His sessions are always super visited. So it's always good to take a look at and see about the general direction of the different cloud services, how they are moving. So if you will go to the next one, one of the stuff, yes, about the storage new stuff, and about for example, premium V2 storage. That would definitely, so one of the guys I'm working is Raman Kumar, for example, and Yi Chai as well. that would do, I mean, for example, a big influence definitely on the SAP as well, because storage is super critical for the database part, performance, latency, and throughput. So I'm pretty sure that will have a huge impact. So tune into this part as well. I don't know, do we have some other as well? Probably not. Yeah.
No, I think that's it.
This is the last one. Yeah. Check. Yeah. So take a look. I mean, again, it's free. I mean, for the digital viewing, I'm pretty sure those stuff will be also recorded as well. You would have the links, I mean, in the on the YouTube channel, so you can take a look. So as always on those sessions, there will be a lot of announcement. We can't say it at this point of time, but I think it would be definitely interesting for the SAP as well. Yeah,
we'll talk about them next week then.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, as you said, just register, just watch some of these sessions. I think that's always great. Now, if you are in Germany and if you are a member of DSAG, then there's also the DSAG Jahreskongress. So basically the yearly congress of the German-speaking SAP user group in Leipzig. There's again lots of keynotes from SAP, from customers that are happening on this 3 days event. There's also a dedicated SAP on Azure track. So let me quickly search for this one. If you are a member there, if you are participating, then join us. There are some really cool sessions, I think. There's one around the sovereign cloud, which I think is really, really fascinating. So why did Germany decide to build a sovereign cloud, and why did they select Microsoft as the underlying platform? So I think that is something really, really exciting. And then you talked about the low-code sessions in Ignite. We also have a low-code session with the Power Platform at the DSAG conference. And then we also have one session that talks about invoice recognition and how this can be done or is actually implemented by a customer. So I think that's also a really interesting setup that we have there. So again, if you are a DSAG member, if you are in Leipzig, join us. And I mean, I will be there. We'll have a booth from the Microsoft side where I think it would be really great to talk to you. Good. So that's the news from this week. So with this, let me actually hand over to our two special guests, Jagan and Ram. And maybe before we dive into the topic, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, and then I'm really looking forward to your presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Holger. Thank you, Goran. It's thank you for having us on the show. It's always great to talk to you guys. My name is Jaganmohan. I'm Group Engineering Manager for SAP Technology as part of Cloud Plus AI Arc.
Oh, you're on mute, Ram?
Sorry. Hey, Holger. I was saying, my name is Ram. So I report to Jagan. I am a senior software engineer working under the platform C plus AI team.
Cool. Really great. Thank you.
So yeah, just to kind of give a brief about our scope of work. So we are responsible for SAP technology scope within Microsoft IT. So we leverage SAP technology and also Microsoft Azure to deliver business solutions for our internal Microsoft IT business. So as part of that, we are core come from SAP background, but we also kind of learn and understand Azure and build solutions which leverage both of these technologies. And there is one example which is public earlier was ABAP SDK for Azure. This is something which we kind of used it internally, and then also we published on GitHub. So these are like some of the solutions which we are internally using for Microsoft, but wherever possible we'll share with customers. So ADO for SAP is one such solution which we're going to talk about it in this session.
Cool. And I mean, we talked about the ABAP SDK also in the past, and I mean, I am a huge fan of it. I still remember, like, I think 4 years ago or something like that, we had also a hackathon in Germany, especially on the ABAP SDK, and it was so great. first of all, I mean that Microsoft obviously internally is using, that Microsoft is contributing there really and providing this to the community. That was really, really great. And it's still around, obviously. It's still used not only within Microsoft, but also with lots of customers. So I think that's really great.
Yes, yes. So today's topic, it's about SAP Release Management using Azure DevOps. We can call it SAP Release Management or Change Management, but end of the day, it covers the scope from requirements to deployment, and that's a scope. And we'll just talk about what is the current, here is the agenda for us. One, we briefly touch upon SAP at Microsoft very quickly, kind of, to show the complexity of the systems and landscapes we have. Then we talk about SAP Release's problem statement. What are the challenges we are facing with our existing solution? Then we'll talk about the solution we are implementing now using ADO. And then we'll talk about some of the features and we'll get to the demo. That's what we have for the agenda. And along the way, we will also kind of cover some of the internal release process as required for this understanding. So here is the kind of a quick glance of SAP landscape at Microsoft. As most of you know, the SAP at Microsoft started in 1993 with the first agreement between Bill Gates and SAP CEO at the time. So in this landscape, so I just want to call out a couple of points. One, each of the system, like a ECC, has a three areas. One, sandbox, dev, QA, and prod. We have those 4 phases for each of the system. And then some of the systems also have dual landscape, which is required because there is a production landscape where we need to make changes on a monthly basis and out of cycle. Then there is another one which is a big release which go through quarterly release cycle, which is 3 months release cycle. So we do have the dual landscape where we have to support this landscape using our release process. And here is the current state of our SAP release process. What we have primarily is a CPM tool, which is a third-party tool which we are using for SAP release. And then we have ADO for the requirements on the left side. Then we have a portal on the right side, which is for compliance and security questionnaires. So there are multiple tools which we are leveraging for the release. And then we have a lot of Excel reporting. We also have SAP Transport, which is standard. And then we have ServiceNow, we have ICM. So all these are part of the overall end-to-end developer experience. So the current problem, disconnected experience for SAP engineers. As an example, I go to ADO, I create a requirement. Then I go to SAP and I create a transport. They are not connected. I just have to manually type that, this here is connected to this TR, but it's not automatically connected. So there's no mapping between requirements and releases. Second, lot of steps are manual. Example, code scan process, critical object checks, compliance enforcement. These are all manual right now. And that's the challenge we are trying to address. Then release challenges due to transport dependencies and also transport sync issues due to dual landscape. That's another challenge, which is, CPM as a tool is very slow and we are running into challenges. Then overall, if we look at the end user experience, it's just pretty, average to bad experience at this point because of the so many number of tools we are using and also the CPM tool, which is kind of not scaling up to the business demands which are growing at Microsoft.
What I found really interesting here is also these dependencies, transport dependencies. I mean, I think if we would only do SAP development in isolation, just SAP, nothing else, then I think it would be fairly straightforward. You just stay in your environment and everything is there. But since there are, in the meantime, so many connections that maybe you just need to transport an API, but obviously this API is consumed by someone, and there's someone who develops an application consuming this API, so there's always this interdependencies. And at Microsoft, we are using Azure DevOps, so ADO, Azure DevOps, as the central tool to track all of this. So it just makes sense to see how we can combine these tools together to really make sure that we have the transports in sync, that we have the dependencies in sync. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this challenge is going to multiply as we move into S4. With all the new technologies coming in, it's going to just multiply for sure. And before we looked at solutions, so we kind of explored 3 solution options. One is from Basis Technologies, other one is SAP's Charm Standard, and then ADO. We kind of looked at these 3 possibilities from 2 angles. One, capabilities perspective, second, cost of ownership. The GTM go-to-market is a third element, but primarily we looked at these two capabilities. From these, it was kind of ADO is coming out as a good combination of leveraging the standard ADO, standard SAP TMS APIs, plus giving the flexibility to customize to Microsoft needs. So that's where kind of we move towards ADO, where we are not building everything custom. We have a lot of standard SAP APIs we are leveraging. We are also leveraging ADO, and we are just connecting the glue in between. And that's the kind of solution we narrowed down to, and that's the solution we have built. And it kind of shows the different features and how they are stacked against. But in the end, we kind of are going with ADO for SAP transport integration. The GTM opportunity. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the GTM is just another possibility where we know that a lot of other customers have similar challenges. So this is something we looked at it as a possibility, and given where we are today, we are already talking to ACCS, and they are exploring to see if they can really look into build a product out of this.
And I think, obviously we might be a little biased because Azure Data DevOps is obviously a Microsoft tool, but I think as you said, we are getting these questions from a lot of customers. How can we fix these issues? And what I also really like is you take an open approach. It was not decided from the very beginning that we have to use Azure DevOps, but no, you really looked at a lot of different other tools to evaluate. Is there a better fit? And in our specific case, ADO turns out to be the best fit, and potentially, and I think that's all a lot of things that we also talked in the past about, that we then want to share our lessons learned. Basically, Microsoft is a huge SAP customer, so why not take our lessons learned and share this with other customers? And this is working so well in so many other places. So I'm really looking forward to this. That we have this go-to-market opportunity, and that will talk more to customers about these integrations here.
Yeah. So just quickly introduce who are all involved in the release process at Microsoft. One is the program manager, who is responsible for working with the users and collecting the requirements, documenting them in ADO. Then the release PM, who is a horizontal role, who is responsible for creating the release cycles and doing all the checks required to ensure that the releases go smooth. And then we have ABAP developers and functional analysts who are responsible for the code and configuration. Then we have approvers and SWE leads, and then we have basis who kind of really move the transport from system to system. So these are kind of a quick overview of personas who are involved in the process. Then we'll jump on to the SAP release process as is and to be. I think this is where I think it really highlights the changes that we are making in terms of how is the current experience and how the new experience is going to be. So very quickly on the top, it just kind of talks about user story to creating change requests to transport, and then coding and configuration to quality checks, integration testing, pre-release checks, and production code. That's just quickly the process we go through for every SAP change required in the system. And in the
I like the reporting in the Excel.
Yes.
Everyone is doing Excel in the end. Okay.
It is. There is Excel reporting, there is Power BI reporting, but it is in Excel. So in this process, we have different players who are doing different things. But just if we look at as this process, the requirements start in ADO, which is good. That's the good starting point. But the next step, when we go to CR/TR, we get into CPM and SAP, and there is no connection there. It's like I create my requirement, and then I create a separate CPM CR, and I connect to TR, right? Then the code configuration in SAP, then some of the quality checks which are local to SAP, and we have like virtual code scan, which we are doing it right now through SAP. Integration test, again, third party and SAP. It's just open-ended. It's not centralized to one place. And pre-release checks, we have a separate portal which kind of asks about this compliance and security questionnaire, which goes through approval, and that is totally separate. And then production imports are manual and reporting is in Excel. That's the current state. And we just highlighted the centralization we are doing, which is with ADO. So in the new solution we have, ADO becomes the central part of everything. Like, it talks to the satellite systems, whether it is SAP, whether it is a third-party testing tool, or the reporting which is required. So where we have moved the CRTR creation into ADO, where user comes in, connects to a requirement, ADO requirement, and creates a CR. And that CR is automatically connected to SAP Transport. And that's the core connection we are establishing in the ADO in this solution. And the virtual forge code scan is already integrated into ADO. And if tomorrow, if you have to integrate additional tools, they all come into ADO as the central solution. So that's the kind of making ADO as the center of the developer experience.
No, and I think that makes so much sense, especially the process starts in ADO, and then I assume, I mean, I'm obviously not working there, but then you need to recreate, basically probably copy and paste right now, more or less the same things to CPM, and then the flow starts, and you jump back and forth between different tools and stuff like that. And now, if you have this streamlined integration in ADO, and basically ADO is the central place where you see the status, where are we, where everything is happening, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely, yeah. Really stuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that pretty much covers everything that we are here for in this meet. Let me take you through quick technical points there, like how we built it, and next the quick demo on how it's actually working in the system. So the big SAP system in the center is the hub system. That's basically center of the solution, where we put in some custom code to help communicate to Azure DevOps and rest of the satellite system on the right-hand sides. So basically the connection between this, I mean, the way it communicates from central hub system to Azure DevOps and vice versa is using single sign-on. And the other way connection to rest of the satellite system is using RFC connections with a generic user ID. So user comes into the ADO at the start point and creates a SAP change request, linking his user story or feature that the requirement is defined in. Then the SAP change request is created in ADO. Then there is a field called state in Azure DevOps, which we extensively used. Using that state field, he pushes the code from system to system, like from SIT to quality code checks to quality system, then to UAT system, and everything, all that actions are within Azure DevOps. So once, let me take a simple example of creation of a transport request as a starting point. So the user logs on to Azure DevOps custom created change request. He creates on a button called create transport request. That's when an API gets fired from Azure DevOps system to the central SAP system. And in the central SAP system, it just logs a request of what kind of change request it is and to what system it's asking the transport request to be created. It logs there and subsequently calls an RFC to the respective system. And there in the respective system is the standard API provided by SAP TMS that we leverage, and which just creates a transport request. So basically in all the solution, on the left-hand side, Azure DevOps is all standard. We built a small custom extension to basically talk to SAP and do a little bit of actions here and there. And the central system leverages all the standard TMS queues, queuing, sequencing, object locking, everything is standard. We just stitch them with a little bit of custom code here. And then on the right-hand side, again, all the satellite systems, the code shipment, the quality checks are all standard delivered by SAP. We again just trigger the APIs using that RFC calls. So all in all, if you see the orange colored arrow marks and the text is what the customization is, rest of all is standard here.
That's really cool.
And then is the other part of the code that sticks together.
Sorry, Gwen, can you say that again?
You mentioned you do a little bit customized code to stitch everything together. I guess you're referring to the ABAP code.
That's correct. Okay. That's correct. At the central system, it's ABAP code, a small table where we kind of log who is the caller, what's the CR number, and what is it asking for. And in the satellite system, we just mentioned when the callers come, what is the CR and what's the transport request number. And at the Azure DevOps end, there's a small custom extension that has been developed, which which communicates from Azure DevOps to the central system and holds the details of the transport request within the change request.
Right.
So this way, we tie everything end to end at one place in Azure DevOps.
That's really cool. And I was actually having a similar question as Goran, but so the modifications or enhancements are actually fairly limited. So on ADO, I think that's part of the extension concept of ADO. So these custom extensions, that's something where we don't really interfere. And similar on the SAP side, I also like that it's not done on all the different systems. So when you showed the overview of all the systems at Microsoft, I mean, obviously that's huge. You
Right.
don't really want to change something in all these systems, but you have the central hub where you do some modifications, and then from there everything else is standard. I think that's a really cool approach. Yeah.
So by standard, it has a lot of standard features like queries. In the Azure DevOps, you have links functionality where you can attach your ICM tickets or snow ticket. All that validation is in place already. So you can have that. You already have the audit log functionality and all that we'll see in the coming demo.
Cool.
So these are the salient features I wanted to highlight. This is basically a solution that is formed from various teams. I mean, we got input from a lot of teams because everybody has the same pain point, be it a developer, security, basis, or functional. So everybody came together and contributed to this features. So from the end user experience wise, you can see in the demo that the UI is very user friendly. The ADO itself is friendly. So we leveraged Azure DevOps work item. So people are like, there's no learning curve at all. So people are used to those kind of screens, buttons, and everything. We kept it as is. So it's kind of easy for adaptability. So the templates are simple. And I was just listening to you when we're talking about adaptive cards. So we made use of this adaptive cards extensively here. So, so early in none of the tools like Charm or other tools that we evaluated, user has to log on to the card network in the VPN.
Perfect.
And then click on approval. Now the approvals are like on the mobile, any device, anytime, anywhere.
Cool.
So I'll take you through the one of the template, the Outlook adaptive card template. It pretty much has all the information that is needed at one shot, and with a just click of a button, it's done. So the code is shipped from dev to sit with the button on the mobile. Then it's like one tool experience in the as we were saying in ADO. It's just you do end to end from planning till code movement, quality checks, comments, reviews, everything at one shot. Then compliance perspective, for any tool, there has been a lot of follow-ups from release team. Once the code is shipped to production, make sure there's a manual step to close the CR so that they have a count of how many number of open. That's been a maintenance activity in most of the tools that we have observed. So we kind of came up, because this is our Azure DevOps, we kind of had the flexibility to the, the way we operate in Microsoft. So the change requests are being auto closed once the code is shipped to production. So that's a great win for us from the release management perspective. And there are some checks, compliance checks that are added. Like for example, I do the code and I ship it myself to quality or SIT system. So this is enforced by program, by ADO customization, that you probably it basically prevents you to approve your own changes. And then compliance and security questionnaire is a lengthy process in Microsoft. Whenever any project needs to be kicked off, you need to pull in a lot of people, who is the security owner, who is the migration owner, and you need to take their respective approvals. These are all scattered in various tools at the moment. So it's there in SharePoint, it's there in Power BI, it's there in Adobe approvals and all that. Now it has all come within Azure DevOps now with a single tool experience there as well. And then a lot of automations and simplifications that we have done, which I mentioned in the rightmost box. So There is a concept of transport of copies. So for example, if I get a requirement to change a field from A to B in a report, so what happens is, in most of the tools, I create a transport request, I push it to SIT system. And in the SIT system, let's say the test has failed. So I come back to development system, create one more transport request and take it to quality system. So with a simple change, there's so many back and forth happens in the life cycle of the change request that you end up transporting 10 change requests for a
Yes.
single change. So this tool makes sure at the end of the day, using the concept of transport of copies, only one transport request gets shipped to the original, the one that you created, only that goes to production. Rest of all are intermediate and they're suppressed in the system. So that way the shipment, the release becomes cleaner and lighter.
Yeah. And basically you're controlling the whole process with this back and forth, so to say.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The second point is about the code scan that happens, the critical object check happens. So there are few very, very critical objects in the Microsoft, which any financial changes, any financial configuration changes that you do, or any MS sales which we report to Wall Street, there is some change in that report or something like that, which is a huge impact. So we mark those, as is processes. We kind of the functional lead or technical lead has a checklist of those objects, and if any change request is coming in those objects, he will make sure if he manually he'll check if the change is on those critical objects, then he takes a double click and it routed to a special approval like a SUI lead approval, something like that. Now, with this automated process, we configure all those critical objects in the central system that I was showing, and against the system, like there are about 20, 25 landscape systems in Microsoft. So against the which landscape, which object is critical, we centrally maintain it. And automatically, when we do a code scan, it goes through this checklist and understands the transport request objects. And if it's hitting any of these critical objects, it's going to automatically route an additional approval to that particular system owner or the service line owner.
Okay.
So that way it avoids a lot of churn in the system.
Yeah.
So there are like a lot of other um, uh, automations and simplifications we have done. If time permits, I can go through the rest. I just wanted to pause and check on the time.
Yeah.
I think we're still good.
We're still good. Good. So
and that's important for also, I guess, for the security, because some of the objects are critical also from a security perspective, and you really want to make sure if you touch them, then to have a special procedure in order to prove it as well, right?
Absolutely. So that is like a manual process, and now it's been automated now. So nothing can go without our notice to production. And then the next one is code comparison for conflicts. So what happens is, as Jagan was mentioning, we have dual landscape systems. We have a production landscape system and we have a project landscape system. So there is a need for us on a quarterly basis for the the project landscape system to go and refresh on the production landscape system, so that these two development systems are in sync and we are doing changes we are doing on the latest version of the code. So again, earlier the process is like you do anything in the production landscape system, you manually make a check in the production and also in the development of the production landscape system to make sure the code that you're touching is the latest and the newest version. So this solution automatically, when you try to edit any code, it goes to the central system, the hub system that we just saw, and it makes an automated RFC calls to the production system and the rest of the dev systems to ensure the code that you are editing is same as the production of all the environments.
Cool. And that's really cool, because otherwise there is a confusion, where is what. So how do you know your landscapes in order? So you need to know, this is my transport landscape, and this system is the productive one, and then what one is development, and the third one. So how do you know this?
Yeah, that's the customization part that I was talking about. A little bit of small tables, which talks about this is the landscape and this is the dev, sit, UAT, and production systems with the RFC, destination IDs. So this when you're trying to edit any code in a system, it understands the version of it. It takes the version, go to the rest of the system and dev systems and production system and ensures that the version is same. if there is a version conflict, it doesn't obviously doesn't stop you for doing anything, but it gives you a warning message saying that the version of the code that you're changing is not same as production. Kindly, compare and do whatever the needful that you have to do. If you have to talk with somebody who is already in UAT, you know, and are already in production and that's not being reflected in dev system or something like that, you figure it out manually. And this job, I mean, this tool's job is to let you know that this is not the latest copy.
I actually think this feature alone is amazing. I mean, if you are a customer that has, I don't know, 1 3-tier landscape where you have dev, QA, prod, then that's probably overkill. But I mean, we know that so many customers have huge landscapes and really not only 3-tier but 5-tier, and then pre-prod, and then a special project, and then an emergency landscape and whatever. And there's such chaos. Or keeping all this in sync, I think, is such a major task. And with this integration, it sounds like, well, even if you don't fix the issue immediately, but you can show, look, there's a warning. This is not, there's potentially a conflict. That you're not working on the latest code line or something. I think this feature alone is gold for a lot of bigger customers.
Yeah. This has been a huge pain point for us in Microsoft as well. There were a number of instances when there were Sev3, Sev2 tickets that were raised because unknowingly we touched the intermediate version and take it to production in the rush to fix the current production issue.
And you know what? Just to recap this again, this is for me something that we as Microsoft can do because we are a big SAP customers, and that is something that others, only if you live through this pain can you identify the pain and fix the pain. And that is, again, this is why I'm so glad that we have all of you that really work on these topics, that identify the issues, that solve the issues, and then that also work on presenting this to customers, making this available. Exactly like what you did with the ABAP SDK. And there are a lot of other things here that you're doing, but this is for me another fantastic example of how valuable it is that Microsoft runs SAP, and not only look, we have one sandbox here, but really on a bigger scale. That's where we learn a lot, and where we, or you, basically share these lessons learned. So I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that way we are like so native to SAP, running this for 25 plus years, compared to any other anybody else, right? I think we are very similar to all the Fortune 500 companies who have similar complexity like the way we have. Yeah.
Well, Ram, please continue. This is just amazing.
Yeah.
Sure. The last one in the salient features is about automated transport imports post refresh. So basically, as in the complex environment, when the refresh of the system is pre-scheduled, we run on a project, we take it to SIT system, we take it to UAT system, and at that point of time, if there is any refresh that happens, the code from production comes in and overrides the code that we have done in SIT and UAT so far, and sometimes in dev as well. So we have developed a utility where it logs the code, and even if there's a refresh, we provide them a transaction within SAP from the central tool. With a click, you can just re-import. You can go back to the state where you are in.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, otherwise, I mean, this sounds like a small one, but somebody who's running like a big program for 6 months, so it's like 2 refreshes for him. It's like collecting all the objects manually, all the transport manually, and shipping it twice is a pain.
Yeah.
So that pretty much covers this slide.
So then let's okay. Oh, the end user feedback.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So out of about close to 23 landscapes, we are already live in 21 landscapes, and there are 2 major landscapes that we have to cover. So this is kind of, I mean, they are the real big systems and big user base with big user base. So before going to them, we wanted to touch base with all the existing users. It's been there in a system for more than 7-8 months now. People are using it. There are about more than about 1,500 change requests for about 150 releases have been created. So we have a fair understanding of where we stand. So we rolled out a survey and wanted to get the feedback from the user. So the first one says, how do you rate your experience while using ADO for SAP as the release platform? And out of 5, we got 4.4 rating
Cool.
of 116 responses. The second one says, do you really think it contributed in the productivity that on the daily basis? So about 90+% of people said more than 50% of improvement in their productivity. And the other one says, how is your experience compared to the previous one? Has it improved? And 1 out of 4 people say yes, it has improved, and 8 say they did not find much difference. And the next one says, do you really recommend this tool for a wider adoption, like the 2 biggest system is what? And 1 of 5 people said yes, we would like to go to MSI, I mean the bigger systems. And 7 people probably they're just the end users, not sure, but they said no. And these are all the benefits under we rolled out a question saying which of these is more near to you from a benefits perspective. So tool availability and scalability, 84 said yes. Simplified approvals, 78. Validations, automation is 76. Seamless transport synchronization, 65. And integration aspects as it connects to every 54. Overall user experience is about 88.
Cool. No, it sounds like there's definitely positive feedback there, I would say. So cool.
Yes, I think, I mean, in the current workload, more than 50% is going through this right now. So we are already live more than 50%. And the biggest system, which is a central ECC, that is pending. And, that's what, we are kind of definitely taking a cautious approach, considering all the financial criticality involved. We are taking a cautious approach. And this has been live for more than 6 to 9 months now.
Cool, yeah. So you're really battle proving it, and then slowly you're also trying to touch the biggest system.
Yes, absolutely.
Makes sense.
Right. So here is the demo. I think I need to share it again with the enabling the sound, I believe. Let me just share my screen again.
But it's really cool. So this has been around for quite some time now. You have some very valid customer or user feedback. I'm sure you're also listening to the critical feedback and trying to see if you can do that, fix that. But it looks like it's well accepted.
Yes. Right. I playing the recorded video now.
Hello everyone. This is a quick demo on how we are modernizing SAP Release tool using Azure DevOps. Mostly we've used the out-of-box features available in Azure DevOps and SAP. The way we have attained this is by creating 3 new custom work item types called SAP Single Landscape CR, SAP Dual Landscape CR, and SAP Release. For this demo, let's go ahead with SAP Single Landscape CR. For this CR, I'm going to fill all the required attributes of this change request, which includes the CR type, system name, when this change is supposed to go to production, planned date to production, etc. I also need to link the user story for which this change request is being created. Now I'll go ahead and save this CR, which generates the CR number. The state field is the attribute which is used to move the CR from system to system until it reaches to production and further closure. So I'm going to put this state to development state at the moment. Print save it. Now I go to this transport request tab and create a SAP transport request. I click on create button. Now the transport request is created in SAP system. Here is the TR in SAP. I've done some changes in SAP and captured in the same transport request. Now I move to static check, which is code scan process. The code scan is completed. The same comments have been updated here and the state has changed. The reason is completed. Now I move to change review to take it forward for my peer review. I hit on save button. Now the peer review is pending with this group. The group would have received a similar email with all the work item details, change request details, with the links, transport request numbers, etc. where you can go ahead and approve and reject it based on the decision. I go ahead and submit it. It says it's approved. And we see the CR state and reason as change review approved with the details of who approved it. And now I would like to move my changes to the next SIT system.
Mhm.
And it says SIT deployment in progress. Now the SIT deployment is completed, and it says the changes are imported to the SIS system. Here, for many good reasons, we keep the original transport request in the development system and create a transport of copies and import that copy to the next subsequent SIT system. So this way, this change request goes through various approval processes like SIT sign-off, UAT sign-off, pre-production deployment sign-off, etc., and finally reaches to production. Then the state automatically gets closed and with a reason imported to production system. With this, a lot of out-of-box features are inherited into this solution, like the state graph, the audit history, the queries, etc. There are a lot of other features that are added to this solution to make it complete. Please do reach out to me in case you have any questions or queries. Thank you.
Cool. That looks really, really great. And especially if you're coming from the ADO world, it's very intuitive. It's just a native experience, and I just can continue to use ADO the way I always used it, but then have this connectivity into the SAP world. So I think that's really, really fascinating.
Excellent. So, I mean, I know that you are always publishing the stuff, sharing with the broader community, whatever you did, and helping the others as well. So how is the plan for this kind of feature? Are you still in testing phase? Are you planning maybe to share it? We already did.
It's two parts. One is we are already live internally and people are using it. We are getting more confident about the solution. That is first part. Second part, ACSS is exploring that the solution to see how they can kind of take it to the market. So at this point, we are not thinking of just publicly sharing it just like the way we did with ABAP SDK. I think we just have to go through that internal process and see what's the route ACSS is going to take, and based on that, we'll take a call to share this more publicly.
And just so ACSS is the Azure Center for SAP Solutions. We had Aaron Stern recently on the show talking about this. And again, like I said last time with ACSS, for me, this is really the place where everything is coming together, where we have this one central place within Azure, where Azure really knows about SAP, where we can interact with SAP. And here integrating with ADO to have an SAP release management strategy there makes total sense to me.
Yeah, they are aware of it. In fact, there is a small part of my team which is also does code with ACSS. So it's they are aware and they are looking at it, and it just their prioritization has to come through, and then they will take it forward.
Cool. Which is even better, yeah, because it's becoming part of the official Microsoft product, so to say, right here.
Yeah. I think that connection is really helpful. While we work a lot about internal solutions for Microsoft Business, having that connection to that ACSS where we can kind of continue to feed what's the challenge for us, and what we are doing. I think that's a very important, and it's working really well.
I mean, I'm pretty sure as long as we have in ACSS, you will probably start even to use maybe the ACSS as well. I mean, for your own kind of, why not? So
absolutely.
Eat your own dog food, which is the best way to grow.
yeah. So we call that first customer experience. Where that is part of it. While we code with them, we also use their products first ourselves to give the feedback.
Excellent. I mean, super story.
I agree, and I'm sure now that we talked about this in public, you'll get more and more requests from customers, and the ACSS team will get more requests to push this forward. No, I can't wait to really see this with customers. Again, I like the fact that we are really doing this because there's a need on our side. We have tested it now very extensively, and maybe soon, hopefully, we'll be ready to also release this to customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, Jagan, Ram, thank you so much. I think that was a really, really great overview. Thanks for the demo. Thanks for all the explanation and discussions. I hope to see you again sometime in the future. I think, yeah, just thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Gordon.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Hope to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
CSS.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.